I asked you way back, I think in early March or April, and it wasn't such a great time. So I think now is even a better time because there's not as many Zoom classes. But I was
Yeah.
doing once a week, and now I backed it off to every 2 weeks, and I might even go to every 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Right? Has a higher impact, you know. So did you see the little video clip we did of you? I told him
I
to send it
did.
over to you yesterday.
Yeah, I
That
did
to me
see
is
it.
like your Terminator clip, man. I was gonna put it on here today, but I love that. So I'm gonna play that a lot.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get promotion from me a lot because that little clip I think is priceless. You should
That's
frame
great.
that and play it everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, we had to go searching. I wanted to go pick up a special clip, and I thought this one is just unbelievable. I love it. Absolutely love it.
That's
So
great.
Sue's good. The baby's good. Everybody's good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, everybody's,
More
you
of
know,
you now, right?
we're very fortunate. Like everybody's, you know, good, business is good, family's good. You know, it's, yeah, no, it's good all the way around. I feel I'm a blessed man.
I just got off a call with the mastermind because I mastermind with Adam Contes, the CEO of Remax International,
Mm-hmm.
the vice president, like all the big hoots. They allowed me to join their group. Justin Have, the #1 Remax agent.
Yeah.
So it's a very, you know, once a week on Tuesdays we get on, and it's amazing. And I said, I got to get off. I've got Richard coming on. So you're
Yeah, no, I heard about that group because Nathan Dart is involved in that sometimes too. He wasn't on today because he was on something else with me, but he mentioned that he was missing that. Yeah, and I know Justin's there. Yeah.
Maybe we should get you to speak to that group one time.
Sure.
Right?
Love to.
So
yeah, love to.
Anyone that doesn't know my good friend Richard, he's the co-founder and CEO of Richard Robbins International, a global sales and business coaching organization that amassed over $50 million in revenue worldwide in its first 10 years alone. The organized explosion of 3,000% growth is attributed largely to the transformational impact Richard's unique methodologies have had and continue to have on the business and lives of thousands of sales professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders at all levels worldwide. So Richard and I go back a very long time. And, you know, even when I first met Richard, he always thought out of the box. He was different. And if you known him for a long time, he always had this driver that he wanted to make an impact, whatever he did. Now, you know, if you go back to his history, he grew up in a small little town. It was Peterborough, right?
That's right. Yes, Peterborough.
So,
yeah.
You know, my fame and your fame is I almost married a girl from Peterborough.
Oh, did you?
Her father was Dick Kavanaugh, who has built most of the houses in Peterborough, who your father would know very well.
I know the name.
Yeah, he had 6 beautiful daughters and Joan, the mother. They're all in the nursing field, right?
Right.
Him, the lone builder, Kavanaugh Homes. And so that's our shame to fame together there.
That's cool.
Right? So how does a guy born in Peterborough, small town, now your father was a realtor.
Well, actually, the story is my father actually had my father worked for Shell Canada. So my father, most of his life, in some form or another, was involved in sort of the gas station, gas service business. You know, he was a mechanic by trade, loved cars. He used to race cars at Mossport International Speedway, or not Mossport, what's it called there in Peterborough? It used to be called Mossport. Anyway, there's a racetrack there that he used to race. Carol Bass is on here. I think she's from Peterborough. She can probably tell us what it is. I think it's Westgate, actually, Westgate Speedway, I think. So, yeah, he used to race cars there. And so I get into real estate. So I actually started working for my dad in the gas business. And I worked for my dad in one capacity, another from 15 years old. I was going to high school. I was working 2 or 3 nights at the gas station, until 10:30 at night, Saturdays, Sundays. I was grinding, man. Like I used to work hard. And then what ended up happening was I met a very successful insurance agent. And I used to play squash with him at the Rocket Club, which is up in Chemong Road. And I used to play squash with him. And I started talking to him. And this guy was about 5 years older than me. His name is Terry Windram. And, I walk out and he's driving a BMW. And I was driving back then a Datsun 500 that I painted with spray bombs from Canadian Tire. That's how bad it was, right? So anyway, he said, you should get in sales. And so, I thought about it for a little while, and I was about 22, I think. And so finally I decided a couple of years later, I quit the job, and my dad thought I had it made because I was sort of taking over the family biz, if you will. And I left, and I started work for Century 21 Gray Monroe in Peterborough when I was 24 years old. So that was a start. My dad got in real estate after that.
Oh, he got it. You know what? I always thought he was in before you, but he got in after you. So you followed him in the gas station business, and then he followed you into the real estate business.
Yeah, he followed me. And then when I moved to Markham, when I opened the real estate company, he took over my business in Peterborough, right? Because I was only there 3 years. So yeah, sort of the opposite of what you think. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That is the opposite of what I thought.
Yeah.
So the beauty of that is that, I started the gas station business also when I was 16 or probably 15. It was the #1 gas station in Canada. It was at Backers and Steeles, and it was called the Freak Bar. You have to have long hair to be able. Wycliffe owned it. You used to have long hair to work there. Yeah. And we used to wear the coveralls, and there was like 6 of us or 7 of us that worked the pumps. So we'd run out and do, always wash the windows and check the oil, check the air in the tires, pump the gas, gone. But it was a great experience.
Oh, that's what we did too. 2 guys in every car. One guy'd go, how much gas you want, start pumping the gas. The other guy do all the windows. And we did all the windows by hand, a squirt bottle and paper towels, like all the windows.
You didn't use the squeegees?
No, we didn't use. We used paper towels. Oh. Now, if there's a lot of bugs on the windshield, we use a squeegee. But usually we use paper towels and a squirt bottle. And then the guy putting the gas would put on automatic, and he'd run around and pop the hood because then the hoods were outside, right? You pop it from the outside, check the oil. Like, oh yeah, it used to be like a Mossport stop when they pulled in, right? It was a good experience.
Well, you think of where you came from, where I came from, small beginnings. And that's why, we do these things, because everybody has to start somewhere. And everybody thinks, oh yeah, he had family members and, he got to take over this family business and become RRI because of it. Listen, I know your humble beginnings from the beginning and the sweat that you had to go to get to where you are today. So, hearing from your small town, you didn't have family in the real estate business, and you started in the gas station business. And that's the first time I realized that your father followed you, and I thought you followed him in there, right?
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
Yeah. And then he actually followed me after that. He was one of my first coaches for this company.
Yeah, no, I know that. That I know.
Yeah.
Well, that would only make sense, right?
Yeah.
Family.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been great. My dad was a great influence.
She tells you what to do, and she brought your father.
Oh, my dad was a great influence in my life. He was, even though he sort of worked for me here at the company, he was almost the ambassador of the company, right? And he was. My dad was. He unfortunately passed about about 2 years ago of Alzheimer's. But he was. My dad was a force to be reckoned with, and I attribute my discipline to him. I really do.
Isn't that funny? You always, and that's one of the questions I would have asked you. Who was sort of your mentor, your guidance, and your biggest person to help you grow from small Peterborough boy working gas stations and going to school and then getting into real estate? You ran a very, very successful real estate company before you started RRI. Right?
Yeah.
Now, for most of you guys don't know, Richard, was from Markham Unionville, and he worked at, where were you working before you switched and opened your own company? You're at Remax then?
No, I was at Peterborough. I was at Century 21 Gray Monroe, which is now called Century 21 United. They went together. And I worked for Merv Gray. Don Heron was my manager. And then I moved in October of '88. So that would have been about 3 years later. And I opened a Mincom franchise up here.
Yeah, but before you opened the Mincom, you had you were who you with?
No, nobody up here. Now, when I sold the Mincom, though, you got to remember, I sold the Mincom in 1996 to Remax, All Stars.
Yeah.
And then I worked for them for a while as part of the transition. So I was with Remax after that.
That's where it got from, right?
Yeah.
So he came from Peterborough, opened up his own company here in Unionville, and which he sold to Remax, and then he opened RRI after that.
Yeah.
Right? So what was your biggest deciding factor that you can remember from going to selling out of real estate to now teaching to the real estate agents and becoming a major coaching company and all of that?
Yeah. Well, here's how it all happened. And I wish I could say there was some crazy master plan, because there wasn't. It just somehow, so when I had my company, my company had the highest production per agent of any company in the trading area. So our agents were really, really, really productive, right? And the reason they were productive is because I get into this idea of coaching, right? I thought, well, what if I do it in-house? So we actually formalized a coaching training program in-house. And there was a fairly accountable as well. We create a lot of accountability. And of course, the agents were doing really, really well. And actually, Nancy Etche, you might remember that name, Daryl. She's still in real estate today. She's with Remax. She said to me one day, she worked for me, and she said to me one day, she goes, why is it you're just doing this for us? Why wouldn't you, do this for more people? Because you're having such an impact in the office. And I know it sounds crazy, but that was the seed of the dream, right? Like, all of a sudden I'm going, yeah, why am I not doing this for more people? So what I did was I sold my company first, then I actually sold my personal real estate practice as well. Leslie Benzik, you probably know him, he bought that. But I signed a non-compete. Now, the reason I signed a non-compete was because I wanted to burn every bridge behind me, right? Because, you're going to go out and you're going to try to make it in the coaching and training business. And I promise you, real estate's a way easier business than coaching and training. Like,
especially starting out.
Especially when you're starting out, like at least somebody wants to buy or sell a house. A lot of people, they don't know they want coaching. I got to wake up every day and try to sell something to somebody they didn't know they needed anything. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways. So so I went out and I signed a non-compete. And the reason I signed that non-compete is I said, I need to burn every bridge behind me because I don't think it's going to be easy. And then I can tell you the goofy stories the first 3 years about borrowing on MasterCard to pay Visa and Visa to pay MasterCard, trying to get this company going. And in my first year, what my goal was, I said, well, if I can do office talks, like in an office, then, if I put a talk together and if I said I can do talks, maybe people want to join my coaching program. So what I did was my very first year, I did 51 talks in offices. Wow. And like some were 6 people, 22 people, 12 people. They weren't big talks or anything. And and here's my goal, much like you, Daryl, because I've always said that success is determined by the behaviors that you perform every day to get the results you want. Well, the determining factor for successful real estate agent is going to be the amount of appointments they go on, right? Showing appointments, listing appointments, whatever you want to call them. Well, the determining factor for me was booking 1 talk a week for a year, because I wanted to do 50. I wanted to do 50 was my goal. So and so every week I prospected for 1 talk. So I would prospect till I got one, and then then obviously I was doing one every week. Some week I do 2, some weeks I did none, but over the course I did 51 talks. And at the end of the first year, I was coaching myself 46 people. So I was doing the talks for free. Now I'm coaching 46 people. Now I'm making some money. So I'm sort of back in the game, and I think I'm going to be able to manage through this. But then my next thought was, how do I scale it? Because I've always been a scaler, right? Like I think, I don't coach myself anymore at all. I don't want to be coaching all day. I'd rather develop content. I'd rather train the trainers, train our coaches, right? So I started thinking about scaling, and scaling to me was I needed to be the revenue generator, the rainmaker, if you will. That's what they say in real estate. I got to get other people to start servicing the business. And that's when I started to hire and train coaches. Now we get 18 of them, right? So I started hiring and training coaches, because that was sort of the evolution of the whole organization.
So you took what you learned in real estate, prospecting,
yep,
knowing your numbers,
yep,
right? Guys, this is crucial for you to understand this, because it all relates. He went through all the real estate things. He did coaching and stuff like that, and he had coaches. And so now he took what he learned and think, okay, here's what I have to take. And he's evolved a long way. Trust me, I remember the first time I seen Rich speaking the very first time, and where he comes from now, it's like here to here. It's just evolved 100 times greater. So he had to evolve his skills. So he knew to survive. He's got two young kids at that time,
yep,
right?
Yep.
And your wife. So he's got to, put food and tape and bills and everything else to make sure the family can survive. So he cut his ties completely because he knew if he didn't cut his ties, he probably would have dabbled back into real estate, tried to make some money, and short fuse what he's trying to accomplish now.
Yeah.
So he paid attention. If you listen, he paid attention and he focused, and he burnt the bridge to go forward. Because some of us just put one toe in. It's like going and jumping in the water. You put one toe in, oh, it's too cold, I'm going to come out. I'll go in tomorrow. He went all in. He went over the deep end and dived in. He made 100% commitment. And that's why, and that's what I always loved about Rich, that he always had that vision. And when he made a commitment, he stuck to that commitment and he didn't back away from it. So he went from making 51 appointments, and again, some were very small, and it was free. But where he made his money is by getting a few clients and getting coaching, getting started. Now, how many people are you coaching today?
We're about 480.
Right? So a long way. Now he's got 400 plus big seminars. You guys just did your big Zoom seminar not too long ago. And I was on
we
there.
did.
I
we got one.
Live, but it still was good.
Yeah, we got one coming up in November, another big one. We're expecting about 2,500 people on it. So we're excited about that.
Amazing. So my question now would be, what do you do to challenge your underlying beliefs in your paradigms and your assumptions?
Other people. I needed other people. So for me, I grew up in, so for instance, I left college after 2 months, and that wasn't because I graduated early. So I wasn't highly educated. I really come from wonderful parents, but, sort of a lower middle class background. We had nothing. Like when I say my first car, I sprayed it with spray bombs from Canadian Tire. That's a true story, right? But I got around people. So as I said, that I met Terry Windrum, and he was insurance, and then he introduced me to these other local business people, and I started to see opportunity, right? See, creating a new awareness, seeing what is possible, that's what worked for me. And I got around all these people. We used to actually have lunch every Friday at 1 o'clock at this very expensive restaurant in Peterborough at the time. It was called Fleming's. It's no longer there. But that restaurant, like I couldn't even afford to be there, but I'd go because I wanted to have lunch with these other successful business people. And so what opened my space was getting around the right people. And I find the challenge in life is that most people would prefer to be the big fish in the small sea rather than the small fish in the big sea. And I say that I think exposure, like I think like our coaching program, it's more of a community. I don't even want to call it a coaching program anymore. We've created this unbelievable community. It's a family. Like, and we share ideas and we're brainstorming together. We just spent an hour on the phone together talking about mindset. And I find that we get exposed to, people that are doing more or people that are doing different, that naturally expands our world for us. Most people get stuck in this little wee world, right? And we've got to get exposed to a bigger world. Travel's a part of that. You've done a lot of travel, Daryl. You go different places, you see different businesses. It's like, I remember when I first started, I get on a plane and I'd walk by the business class, right? And I used to think to myself, someday I'm flying there, man. Like I want to be up front, I want to be in those front seats. And, I'm very blessed now that I'm to that place. It's the only place I'll fly. You know what I mean? Now I'm going, if you're putting me on a plane, I'm only going one way. So you got to be exposed to stuff, exposed to people, right? Exposed to different ideas, exposed to different businesses. And then all of a sudden you start to see there's possibility. And when you get to know these people, you find out they're no different than you. They got the same issues as you. They got the same inhibitions as you, same fears as you. And that's what I discovered. And I started thinking, well, I'm no different than them. And if they're doing it, why can't I?
But isn't that the truth? And that's why, with every speaker, everybody came from somewhere. Some may have been wealthy earlier, but most of us came from nothing.
Right.
And when you were a kid, you didn't dream about being a real estate agent. You didn't dream about being an international speaker.
No.
Right? It hit you as someone mentioned to you, and it triggered something in your brain. It might have been there in your subconscious, but something triggered you to step out of that box and to expand what you were doing.
The big challenge is, Gerald, for a lot of people, I think, sorry to interrupt, is that the fear of moving on to something new. See, everybody strives for certainty in their life. They want to have certainty, right? You know, a lot of people might be stuck in maybe a relationship that isn't great, but they don't leave because at least they know what they got, and they're afraid of the uncertainty of moving out because I don't know what's out there. Maybe I'll never find anybody else again. So they settle for what I call mediocrity. And it takes a lot of courage. And I have so much respect for people that have the courage to maybe leave not such a good relationship or see another opportunity in life and chase it down. Maybe leave a business they're in and go into this business. But people that are willing to explore, right, the fear of the uncertainty to try to create something bigger and better for themselves. So I think it's the fear that holds most people back.
Yeah, fear will always, you know, probably the biggest thing in life that freezes everybody is fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fear freeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they're not willing to take a risk. And that's one of the questions I'll ask you is, you know, how do you get to where you can take a risk? Because like I say, you know, someone trying to dump in the water, the water's cold, they put one toe in, oh, I'll go in tomorrow, it's warmer, right? So they back away. So
Right.
their fear, they freeze. So how did you get over your fear of changing? You had a successful business, you had no pressures to make any change, but yet you took a big risk for you and your family. How did you come about that?
I've always looked at this. I said, my theory of life is one really cool adventure. Like I just think to myself, like, I'm on this crazy adventure in life, and it starts when I was born and it's going to finish when I'm going to die. And, you know, in the middle, I want to experience as much as I can possibly experience. So to stay, you know, the same or somewhere that I see bigger possibility for me is just not something I'm interested in. And that doesn't mean that when I made that move, I wasn't scared. You know, I go back and think about it. I had 2 young kids, both in private schools at the time. I didn't have a lot of money. I had a little bit, but I didn't have a lot of money. And we had just bought a house and we were renovating our house. Like, it was like, what was going on at the time? I go back and think about it now and I go, it's hard to believe I even did it, but I did it, right? But I just look at this beautiful adventure, right, that we're on, this beautiful journey that we're on. And, you know, whatever you aspire to, you've got to move towards that. Don't settle, right? Doesn't mean you have to, but if you love what you're doing, hey, beautiful, right? But whatever you aspire to, I believe that, you know, we got to move toward that. And I think the great challenge, I joke in real estate all the time. I say, you know, I look at real estate agents, I say a lot of them are interested in success, but they're not committed to success, right? And that's probably what holds them back, is they're not 100% committed. So they won't do what it takes to succeed at a high level. Like, everybody's interested. You know, it's like you look at a doctor, you know, a doctor didn't say, I'm going to give it a try, but real estate agents, I'm going to give it a try all the time. That's a mindset shift, isn't it? Big difference between those two mindsets.
That is such a large, you know, a doctor, because that's what I was going to be, a doctor, scientific research, not people. And, you know, 7 years, you know, got to go to school and this, that, whatever. Now, real estate, you know, they went to a short school. Now they're going to change it a bit, but, you know, there's 56,000 agents in a Toronto real estate board. It's the largest real estate board in the world. But then if you look at the numbers, you know, 85% of those agents are selling less than 6 homes per year, and half of them are selling 0. So, you know, COVID-19 came into effect, and a lot of people now use, hey, that's my excuse, I'm not doing any business this year. But you notice that the real estate market has come up tremendously, but their business didn't come up with that business that's come up, because they formed bad habits during that COVID-19, sitting in homes, staying up all night, you know, watching TV or whatever, Netflix or whatever the case might be. So now the market is passing them by at a very fast pace. It's like a fast running train. Go try and fast running train trying to run. It's very hard, right? So you got to be committed, is exactly what you said. And that's what I see a lot of people in their failures. They're only a little bit in and not fully committed. And that's what I love about you. You had a very successful business. You cut it off, you moved it out, and you just went out on a limb. There was no bridge for you to go back. I mean, obviously you could have went back and sold real estate with another company, whatever, but you made it very difficult for you to do it. You put your focus on, were you afraid? Yeah, you were definitely afraid, but you continued moving forward. And I remember every time I would see you and I just say, Rich, you've just, you know, I was always so proud because I knew you from before, and I seen how much you've grown from what you were. That's amazing. That's why I was so excited to have you on today, right? You know, you say you're the little fish, but now you're the big fish in the big pond, right? You know, you're a big wheel. So that's why I'm telling my guys, you guys got to be on here because he's got a lot that he can teach us. He's given us this 1 hour and he's not charging us, but he's here to share his
Whoa. You're not paying me for this? Just a
I'm going to
minute.
take you golfing.
I had no idea. I thought I
I'm
was
taking
getting
you
paid.
golfing and for dinner. That might be worse. I can't take you to a hockey
Hey,
game
everybody. Hey,
or
everybody. I got to
basketball.
go. See ya.
So let me ask you this. If looking back, what would you have done differently given the opportunity with what you know now?
What would I have done differently?
You may not have done anything differently, you know?
Yeah, well, there's so many things you'll learn along the way, but I look at it, and a lot of people say, what would you go back and change? I said, well, I wouldn't go back and change anything because everything I've done, has got me where I am. Here's what I would have done. Actually, that's made me think. Obviously, Daryl didn't prepare me with any questions.
I did. He has, listen, the best way is make him think also, makes him get out of the box because he's got lots of knowledge.
Exactly.
Right?
Hey, everybody, here's all the questions he sent me right here. Just so you can see them, okay? So anyway, when I got married to my wife, Sue, who we actually, we founded this company together, we both worked too hard. Now, I don't want to, I don't want to say we shouldn't work hard, but we were working literally like it was crazy, 16 hours a day. We had 2 young kids at the time, and my wife got really, really sick for a while. And she always says that work wasn't the problem, and she's probably right. But for some reason, I sort of, in my own mind, I deal with a little bit of guilt over her sickness, thinking that we were grinding it way too hard, right? And the reason we were is because we had created a very expensive lifestyle for ourselves. And now at 59 years old, that's how old I am today, I am so different. I have the most inexpensive lifestyle you could ever imagine. So what I would have done differently was, I know a lot of real estate agents, every time they make more, they spend more, they make more, they spend more, and they got the big cars and the big leases and the big mortgage payments and all that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that I wasn't there, because I was, but if I had to go through it again, that's one thing I would have done differently. I would have kept my cost of living very, very low, like sort of like it is right now. And the reason for that is because everything that you own owns a bit of you, right? So in other words, every time, you have debt, it owns a bit of you. Everything you own owns a little bit of you. And my theory now is that I want to own everything and nothing owns me. So an example of that, and this is just for me, I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but I have a place down in Florida. So I have a house down in Florida. And, it's not, it's nice, 200 square foot bungalow, a nice pool, and everything. It's everything I need. It's not crazy, but I paid cash for it. You know what I mean? So I have no debt down there to worry about. If I didn't go down all winter long because of COVID, it wouldn't matter, right? I don't feel an obligation to go there. And, so when I was younger, I was striving for lifestyle and things, probably because of my own crazy insecurities, right? We're younger, we're a little insecure, we want to show the world what we're all about. And because of that, it required me to really, 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 really grind it. And when I look back, I say, what was I grinding it for? I was grinding it to maintain a lifestyle that maybe I didn't really need. So the older I've gotten, the more I've realized the less I need. And that's what's really weird. And so I just made my life to a point that, I can live on very little now. So I don't work anymore because I have to. I work now because I want to. And I think the big difference is, if you can get to a place in your life that you're just going out and working for the pure enjoyment of work, right? Of making a contribution, of bringing value to other people, just creating value in the world instead of chasing the almighty buck. And, even since I got to that place, our business has been more successful than it's ever been before, that it becomes really cool. So I find a lot of people get into a place that they're trying to keep up. And I do think that it can be kind of unhealthy. And in some ways, I still feel my wife's sickness could have been due to that. And, she ended up having 58 chemo treatments and stem cell transplants. And it was like horrific what she went through. But what we went through together, her being sick, me dealing with it with the kids, humbled me in a way I'd never been humbled before. It just like, I mean, it just took me right down, right? Where I started to realize that there is nothing more important than the time with my wife and my kids and all of that. And then that became what was primary in my life. And so that would be the one thing. I don't know if I communicate that clearly, but I think that would be the one thing that if I had to do over, I'd probably do differently, right? I'd say, look, don't, in other words, the world we live in today, pay cash for everything. Because if you pay cash for everything, you own it. Nothing owns you. Nothing owns you.
Well,
we're in a world where they just try to give money away and get everybody in debt.
COVID-19 has certainly changed the way like a lot of people think. I mean, for us, our maturity has changed because we wanted this and that and everything. But with COVID-19, I went to the office and I went home. I didn't go anywhere. I'm still not going really anywhere. I'm going downtown next week to a little event. It'll be my first little event other than that with what we had yesterday at the christening, the baptism, right? So, you know, you realize you don't need as much as you thought you need. But in the same token, you know, when they open up travel, I wanted to be the first one on the plane and be able to travel somewhere because I love to travel, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in the back of the bus or in the back of the plane. I want to be in the front of the plane where I can go and look. That's, I think you have to find out what your level of comfort is and be able to go to push towards that. Because you have to have a driving force. You know, you want to be successful. That was part of your driving force to make your company grow, not only to pay the bills, but, you know, you bought your place in Florida, you paid it cash, you live in, you know, you're at Magna there. So you have some nice things still. You live
No. I'm not saying that I don't have a great lifestyle, but I've finally got to a point. I would say one time I was working for my lifestyle. I no longer work for my lifestyle, right? I work for me.
And you feel better because of it, correct?
Oh, I come to work every day and just, you know, how can we do a good job for people? How can we deliver more value? And I don't feel pressure, right, to chase the almighty buck anymore, if you will. And I know that's easy to say when you're 59 opposed to when you're 35, but I still think that I got very caught up in the things back then.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
So how do you find your inspiration today? What do you get to give you that inspiration to move your company, move you and your family forward? Because you help now 430 coaching clients, plus you have other people that are in and out of your systems like me. So how do you find that inspiration and who gives it to you?
Yeah. Well, probably these right here. I'm a huge reader, so I got books all over the place. And this one here, Personality Isn't Permanent by Benjamin Hardy. If anybody wants to read an outstanding book, I've devoured this thing. It's really good. Another one that I'm reading, Tiny Habits, right now by BJ Fogg. Actually, I'm going to be on a webinar with BJ in about 25 minutes. So I read a lot, and I find by reading it, you know, there's just, I always say that what inspires people, I believe, is hope of a better future. When people can see hope of a better future, I find that there's an inspiration inside of them that lets loose, right? And when I get around people that we talk about business and life, and I get hope of a better future. When I read books, I have hope of a better future. So I think of reading is a really big part of my life. But the other thing too is that I have discovered that. So think about this. Think about if you're going to a Tim Hortons as an example, and there's somebody walking behind you. There's a possibility you might stop and open that door for them and let them go ahead of you, right? And when you stop and you let them go ahead of you, it made you feel good, right? Because we're, as human beings, we're innately designed that when we make a contribution or do something for somebody else, that it makes us feel good. So my work now, and that's where the inspiration comes from, my work now is about a contribution. I just want to, like, everybody says, when are you going to retire? I go, why would I retire? Like, I like what I do, and I get to make a contribution. And I, as I said, if I'm going to work every day to get, it's a whole different thing. But if you're going to work to give, right, then you're always inspired to go to work. I was talking on a call previously. I said, you know what I think to myself every day when I my first hour in the mornings for me, that's called R&R time, review and reflection time. That's where I sit down, I read positive stuff, I review my goals to get my head going. The second hour in the mornings for my body, I exercise. I got a gym in my house. I got a Peloton bike, exercise equipment. So my first hour is for my mind, the second hour is for my body. And then the rest of my day is about, now I'm going to go out into the world, make some form of contribution. And I find it interesting that many people, they move from contribution to pleasure. So what they want to do is they go do what they have to do all day, which is considered work. And a lot of people don't love what they're doing. And when they're at work all day, they're trying to get, they're not trying to give. And then what they want to do is at the end of that, move on to more pleasurable activities to make themselves feel good. But my theory is, why do we need pleasurable activities in our life if we're making a contribution? Because now it's making us feel good. So it's like Bob Burke book, The Go-Giver. Like, you can either be a go-getter, you can be a go-giver. When you're a go-giver, you're inspired because you're trying to help people. You're not necessarily just trying to get, right? It's like giving starts the receiving process. Like Jim Rohn said, if we would wake up every day and if we would go into the world and if we would give more than we get, the day will come when we start to get more than we give. It's all about contribution. So I find that when you get into that mindset, that all of a sudden the work that you do is your life. It's what you do, right? Outside of your family and everything else. And it's about contribution. How can I deliver more value? How can we do a better job, right? And when you get there, it's like, I find you're pretty inspired. If you're, it's like this, if you're going to a listing presentation, it's one of our teachings, say, listen, if you're going to a listing presentation and you're thinking, I'm going to go get that listing. The minute you think that, you're thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about yourself. I want to get another listing. I want to get another listing, right? Which means you're a go-getter. But if you think about it this way, if you think, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk into that home and I'm going to give these people all the information that I can possibly give them to help them make an informed decision that will best serve them. And let's say I start my dialogue that way with them when I get to the house. I've taken down barriers right away. Because number one, I'm okay with whatever decision they want to make, but I am here to help you make the best decision that you possibly can for you. And if I'm the one, which I'm hoping I am, that's good. But if for some reason maybe you don't think I am or I shouldn't sell, that's okay too. I'm okay with whatever decision. So now it becomes about a formal contribution and your intention changes as a human being. When your intention changes, people can feel that connection with you and that trust with you. And then all of a sudden, you don't have as much rejection and failure in your life. And every day becomes sort of satisfying in and of itself, if that makes sense. And that's where I try to live now. I want each day to be satisfying in and of itself. So it's sort of what I do is inspiring, so reading, all that sort of stuff, and looking at it from the standpoint of how can I deliver more value as a company?
So if you see what his decision was, most realtors, and probably I'm just as guilty as that at one point or another, that I'm going to go take that listing no matter what. That's mine to take. And that's my mindset. And they probably still have that. But in the same token, I have to realize that if I'm not helping that client to achieve what they're looking for, and that's one of the things I always do when I'm, pre-qualifying them, I'm looking to find out what's important for them. So I find out how I can help their family get to what they're looking for. So if I concentrate that more on just for me to get that listed and make a commission, I'm going to go a lot further ahead. And that's how Richard, he detaches himself from the outcome. He's going to be prepared. He's going to be fully that they're going to make their decision. And they always are. I always say, like we were taught, 3 things are going to happen. You're going to have the opportunity to list with me. You're going to decide not to list with me, or I'm not going to take your listing. But whatever you're going to do, you're going to give your best presentation. And if you find out what's important to them, it's going to go a lot further than if you're just thinking of a paycheck.
100%.
You can read through that all day long.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the other question, now I know you're a great reader, and a lot of our mentors that we follow that were great readers, like Jim Rohn. You almost sound like Jim Rohn. And I love Jim Rohn. I still follow some of his stuff.
Yeah.
So if you could think off the top of your chart, 5 of your greatest books that these guys could reference, and this is being taped. You're going to get a tape of this. What would you say are your top 5 books that you would recommend? Like you just said, the personality one right there. I've never even heard that book. So
Yeah, I would say, well, if you want to talk sort of older classics, there was a book I
anything.
read many, many years ago called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. Now, I will say the first half of the book is relatively scientific and a little difficult to get through. But once you get through that, you're going to rock it. And he talks in this book about how each of us actually calibrate at an energy level as human beings. And based on our intention, if we have a selfish intention, we're going to calibrate lower. You know, we've got an inclusive intention, we're going to calibrate higher. And anyway, it goes into great detail on how you can become better at connecting with human beings just by intentions. I'm not going to go into that, but that to me was an absolutely outstanding book. The other one I've always enjoyed by Wayne Dyer, he's obviously passed now, is Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Change your thoughts, change your life. Because I'm a huge advocate of controlling what it is you think, because you know, if you look at the formula, the way we think causes the way we feel, and the way we feel, it causes the way we act, and the way we act causes the results we get in our life. So I look at it and say, every change you want to make is going to happen right here first. You've got to change the way you think before anything in your life changing. It's like, if you want things to change for you, then you need to change. All change comes from the inside out, not the outside in, right? I'm the genesis of all change that's going to happen in my life. So if I can change the way I think, then I'll change the way I feel. And if I change the way I feel, chances are I'm going to change the way I act. If I change the way I act, I'm going to get a different result, which means my results are caused by the way I think. And people put very little focus on the way they think. And the average human being has 60,000 thoughts a day, and 95% of our thoughts are habitual. And people wonder why their life doesn't change, because their thinking doesn't change. So the first one is Power versus Force. Second one would be, I would say, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Obviously, there's the greatest classic of all, Think and Grow Rich, that I have a signed copy from believe it or not, I got a signed copy from Napoleon Hill sitting on my bookshelf at home that my dad found for me, which is amazing. So that would be the other one. If I want to go to newer books, I definitely, this one here, like you can see all the stickies in here. Like, I've destroyed this book, okay? Because I've read it more than once. And it's called Personality Isn't Permanent by Benjamin Hardy. Now, Benjamin Hardy has written a lot of great books, but I'm going to say this was probably the best book that he's written so far. Very well researched book. And basically what he's talking about is your personality isn't permanent. And he challenges this whole idea of personality tests and how your personality test determines who you are and all that sort of stuff. And he's saying there is definitely some truth to that we all have strengths and weaknesses, right? We all have maybe special gifts. But he's saying most people use that as an excuse. He goes, you can change your personality. And it takes you through how to do that. And then again, the other modern one, I would say, so there was a great book called Atomic Habits that came out maybe a year and a half ago. And it was written by James Clear. Outstanding book. But I have just got into this one called Tiny Habits by, this guy is a prof at Stanford. And this is by B.J. Fogg. And James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, was his student. And what this teaches you in here is how you can create good habits, but also eliminate bad habits, but in a very easy way. And it almost sounds like, oh, that can't happen. It can happen, but there's 3 things it takes. And that's what he talks about in this book, right? So anyway, I would say, they're, both outstanding. I got lots of books. From a marketing standpoint, you all know Joe Polish? Yeah. Joe Polish, one of the greatest marketers ever. This book, I don't know if you can get it. He sent this to me, but it's called The Average Joe's Marketing Book by Joe Polish. And I've had all of our, I got copies for all of our coaching clients and had them all read it. So there's like, I could go on and on and on. I got books everywhere in my office here. But they're probably, I would say, depending on what you're looking for, they'd be 6 goodies.
The one good thing that when Rich has an event, he always has like an after event, like a dinner and that. And he always has wax of books that he auctions off for the different things. So if you're fortunate enough to go there, that's one thing you don't have at Zoom, that people can't pick up your books, right? So I'm sure
Yeah.
you're now that you haven't been doing live meetings, your book collection is growing tremendously.
It's
So the
growing
next
again.
live
Yeah.
event, I have to make sure I'm there so I can pick up some of these books that I don't have.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So what I do is I read them, I destroy them, I highlight them. Like you see this one here, see all the highlights in it. And then what we'll do is after I'm done with it, then we'll auction them off at the events if people want to, you know, pick them up. And I got to be careful what I highlight because you never know. People go, this guy's really seriously weird. You know, he's highlighting some really weird stuff here.
You never worry about that. You never worry about that. What about
I
audio?
know.
Do you do much audio books? Because I used to do a lot of audio. And then
Yeah.
when the car, you know, with the telephone, because I'm always on the phone. So
Yeah.
when you went on the phone, the audio wouldn't work. So I got away from that. But I just bought an audio book now today. So I can listen on my phone or at home, whatever the case might be. Because
Yeah.
I was like you, I used to read a lot and somehow I got a little bit away from that. But for me was the audio time. I always enjoyed that tremendously, or a video DVD.
Well, it's sort of interesting. We're sort of at a different time now because obviously there's podcasts everywhere and podcasts are free, right? Like I got a podcast, the Richard Robbins Show. So a lot of people are gaining access to all this information through podcasts. They don't have to buy books. But here's what I do. Now, you're all going to think I'm a whack job, but I do this. So when I'm reading a book, let's say Tiny Habits here, I actually buy this on Audible, okay? So I get the audio version and I get the hard copy of the book. Or if I don't get the hard copy, I'll do it on Kindle. So I'll sit here with my highlighter and I listen to the audio version on my computer while I read the book all at the same time. And I have it on, you know, 150 speed, right? So 1.5 speed. And that way what's happening is because I'm not a fast reader. And so what I do is when I'm listening to it and reading the book all at the same time, I get access to more of the information faster, I find. It moves me through the book faster. Sometimes I'll stop the audio and I'll write notes in the book, you know, that I want to write. And I actually block in my schedule a minimum of 30 minutes every single day where I stop work because I get a schedule like everybody else. So I literally stop work and I'll take 30, sometimes 45 or 60 minutes. And I'll just click on the audio and I'll sit here in my office and I read right in my office because reading to me, I consider part of my job.
It is your
right?
job.
Yeah. So, you know, I look and say, if I want to keep putting good stuff in here so that I get, you know, crappy and crap out, you know, if I put good stuff in here, I have to make sure that I'm reading all the time. So I know a lot of people, oh, I'm going to read when I have more time. I'm going to read when I go to bed. Worst time you can read when you go to bed, you can't remember what you read anyway. You wake up the next day, right? You're tired. So I read fiction at night. I don't read nonfiction in bed. I just read fiction. I don't care if I remember it. I want it to be entertaining. I want it to put me to sleep, right? But during the day, and also I do it quite often first thing in the morning, you know, my own hour time.
See, that was the good thing about traveling. When I was on an airplane, I got to read a lot because I love to read on the airplane, right? It passed the time away. I'd have my notepad there and I would just take notes because, you know, like what you're doing by audio and the book, guys, pen to paper is, to me, is probably still the greatest way to learn. So he's doing it audio, reading it, and his notes. So it's probably 3 times greater than just one, right?
Yeah.
It takes more into your mind. Because and if you listen to what he said, he didn't read the book once. Now, here's a pretty articulate person that, you know, can dissect the book fairly well. But he said, I've gone through it 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. And each time he's picked something else out. Or the time he heard it, now it's really resonating in his brain, right?
Yeah.
Because I used to get people say, well, I can't go to that seminar. I already seen that person. I said, could you give me that seminar? They can probably give you 5 minutes of it, right? Even my ex-wife used to give me shit with that. Why are you going to go see that coach again? You were seeing him already 6 times this year. I said, because I'm stupid. I need to learn. I need to be around the people that are going to be there if I can learn off of them, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the beauty of this is, you know, do I really like the Zoom? Not so much, but in the same token, I couldn't have you do this for in a live class. I couldn't afford to have you come here. You know, we got people that are outside of our team and that are here that we couldn't have them here. So there is benefits of doing Zoom. Look at, you had 2,500 people on your Zoom class. Like, is that freaking amazing, right?
Yeah.
So you've learned to do business differently and keep moving ahead. but some things still stay the same. He still has to get education. He still has to get information that he can share with everybody else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you approach the unknown? Because there's lots of things you don't know and I don't know. So how do you approach that unknown? Where do you go? Is it in a book you read? Do you reach out to try and get a hold of somebody that may know that knowledge?
Yeah. Well, if you're talking about, so I'm an avid reader and researcher, so I'm always, sitting on the internet trying to figure things out. But my first, if I want to figure, let's say I'm sitting there, okay, I want to be better. I'm going to figure out how to invest in the stock market. I got to get better at the stock market. Almost the first thing I always do is I think people, right? I think who could help me with that? Like who's been through it? So my first place to go is always people when I want to figure something out, right? Like I wanted to, start investing in mortgages. So I call up a guy I knew really well that was in that space. And I said, listen, tell me, I got some money here. I wouldn't mind putting out some money in mortgages. Tell me what I need to, well, you got to set up an account here. You got to set up this, you could do this, you could do that. And then we'll do this. And bang, it was all done, right? But I found sort of somebody really good in that realm that can help me through that. So that's, if I'm, trying to figure something out, I always think of people first, right? Because I don't know why, I just love talking to people, right? So I'd always trying to think of people. So that would be the first. The other thing when it comes to the unknown is I find that a lot of people are afraid of the unknown. Like people want certainty, and when you move into the unknown, there's uncertainty. But what's really weird in the world we live in, there is no certainty, right? We all think we have certainty, but no, there isn't any. We could all get, unfortunately, be hit by a car. We get sick tomorrow. We could, we're sitting here. We all got our businesses and our lives. Well, hyperinflation in Canada. I don't think this is going to happen, so I don't want to scare anybody. But you have hyperinflation, and all of a sudden your dollar becomes worth nothing, right? And you're paying $22 for a loaf of bread. Like all these things could happen. I don't think it's going to happen. So it's funny how we search in the world. We want certainty when actually there is no certainty. So I always say that I do believe that the greatest thing people can do is get used to living with uncertainty and living in the unknown.
So that would be a question, like, how do you learn to embrace failure? Because you and I both know you have to have a lot of failures to have success.
Yeah.
And most people are afraid of failure.
Yeah. Well, you got the four biggest fears in the world, right? And failure, you got rejection, you got fear of the unknown, which I was just talking about, and fear of success. They're generally the four fears that they say most people deal with, and the fear of failure and rejection being generally in the top two. But I look at it this way. I don't view it as failure. I don't think I've failed. I think I've learned. The old saying is you can't fail, you can only learn and grow.
That's right.
Right. So when I view it as something didn't go, and I got this little goofy mindset, but I always say that was interesting. Like I just, anytime something doesn't go the way I want, I go, that was interesting. Right. Oh, that didn't quite go the way I wanted. Oh, that was interesting. So it's a little way of me to deal with it mentally. And then I think, okay, well, what can I take from that? Because failure just taught me another way that it didn't work. It's like the old Thomas Edison, right? He had 1,093 patents or something in his life, 10,000 times trying to invent the light bulb. And I went down to Fort Myers and toured his whole estate down there. Well, I have a place in Fort Myers, so I toured his estate, and I thought it was so intriguing that here you got the guy that still owns the most patents in history. And every day, all he did was try to fail. And that was like the light bulb, 10,000 attempts.
Not
most of us would give up.
do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's the difference. So he became, the most patents ever. And the guy just failed all day long. Like, that's crazy, right? And most people are afraid to fail once,
So, yeah, that's, how do you bring courage and conviction to risky situations? Like Walt Disney, how many times did he fail before he created Walt Disney? He was turned down everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. He was turned down by 308 banks. Because back then there used to be a million different banks, right, in the U.S. And Walt Disney was turned down by 308 banks. That's what I read. That's crazy, right? Yeah. But I think the key, Daryl, at least what works for me is it's always a mindset. And my mindset is I really can't fail. I can only learn, right? Like every failure is a great learning opportunity, and every failure is there to teach me, strengthen me, make me better, right? Because we learn from our most difficult situations, not our easy ones.
And that's what people have to understand. They have to realize that if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And
Yes.
you're going to get rejection. You're going to get failures. You're going to get no's. And just don't take it personally, because it's not directed at you personally most times that are not. Right?
No, not at all. Yeah,
And
totally agree with that.
listen, we're running out of time. I know Rich has got to go. Does someone have a quick question they would like to ask him? Because I know we could go on for hours and I'd love to, but he's got to be somewhere else. So someone has a quick question, we can throw it out there. Because I know I'm honored to have you on here today. And like I said, I could go on for hours just throwing questions out at you, because you know, you have a great mind and a great knowledge. And it was a great day today. Anyone got a question they want to ask?
Well, Diane asked a question in the here. She said, Richard, you have a lot of long-term employees, colleagues. What do you do to ensure they stay? Yeah, that's yeah. We have people that have been with us for, like, first of all, we got coaching members that have been here for 18 years. We have employees that have been here for 17 years, 18 years. Everybody in here, I say, we're all about our contribution. Like, they all feel the same. They want to make a contribution, right? So they know that we're purpose-driven as a company. We don't hold people to contracts. We don't make it difficult. So if somebody joins our coaching program, they don't like it, they can get out with 30 days notice. We don't hold them to, we're not that type of company. We're a very easy company to do business with. So I think that the reason people enjoy being here is, number one, they know we're purpose-driven. Every day they want to come to work, and how do we bring more value? Number two, my wife and I are both so open to their feedback, right? We want to know what they think, right? This is not a top-down organization. This is a flat organization. We tease each other a lot. We have a lot of fun, that sort of thing. So I think, Diane, I hope that helped you a little bit, but I think when people feel that there is a bit of a mission going on in an organization, they feel like they're really making a difference in the world, not just trying to make money. They tend, I think, to enjoy it much, much more, right? And quite honestly, we're all friends. You know, it's like, you know, Dana Stroud, you hear me tease her all the time, Diane, sometimes, and other Dana Stroud, and she's been here for 17 years. And one day I said that in public, I said, oh, I've seen her have 2 kids. And she quickly corrected me and says, no, you're around when I had 2 kids. You didn't see me have 2 kids, just, you know. But I've seen her grow up, right? So
that's the beauty of it. So, you know, in case any of you guys didn't pick up, you know, Richard Robbins obviously has a coaching and training company. We'll put it on the CD with all the information on there that you can reach out to him and his company, because I know he'd love to come up and have you listen. I'd certainly like to thank you and your family for allowing you to be on here today. That's you too, Sue. You know, so quite enjoyable. Hopefully we'll get you on here again in the future. Like I said, I truly enjoyed it. I'm going to get to, like, I share this with everybody, so they're going to get a chance to watch it again. We'll send a copy to you that you can share it with your team and whoever else wants to watch it. But Rich, thanks from all of us. Truly appreciate it. Till next time, let's get a game of golf. Right?
Yeah, we should. I got
I can take guests out at the summit now, and I know it's harder to take guests